There's a new truck in town, a new truck that is making everyone sit up and take notice. An aerodynamic tractor with a setback front axle and a 120-inch PVC, and it has Ford written all over it. With the new Aeromax 120, Ford is carving out a niche for itself right in the very heart of the over-the-road premium diesel market. Ford is so confident in the superiority of this truck that Ford dealers, fleet customers, and members of the trucking press were invited to the Michigan Proving Ground in October 1990 to get behind the wheel of the Aeromax 120 and its toughest competitors. Those participating were invited to drive and compare. The Aeromax 120 went head-to-head with the competition not only on the track, but also in a detailed walk-around presentation conducted in one of the test bays of this research facility. The competitors? The Kenworth T600A, the Freightliner FLD120, and the International 9400. Let's listen in.
Let me start my comparison with the granddaddy of the aero trucks, the Kenworth. This is their T600A. To make this, they took the W900, moved the axle back, added a fiberglass hood, plastic bumper and air dam, the side skirts, cab extenders, and rooftop fairing. That approach, taking an existing chassis and cab and adding the aero parts, is something you'll see from all the manufacturers here today. We first looked at this truck when we introduced the Aeromax 106, and since then Kenworth has made some changes. Got rid of the two-piece flat windshield for one thing, replacing it with the curved one-piece that you see there, which is what the Louisville cab has had since its introduction. And in fact, on the Louisville cab and the Aeromax 120, that's a larger one-piece curved windshield, with the A-pillars arranged for outstanding visibility. Again, to create this truck, Kenworth streamlined the cab and added the full chassis side skirts. And they say the T600 is improved aerodynamically. Maybe, but some also say that those changes just seem to emphasize the narrowness of this cab. And narrow it is, 63 inches inside from door to door. The Aeromax 120, almost 5 inches wider inside. And Ford makes good use of that extra spaciousness to give you more elbow and shoulder room and to make it easier to get in and out of the sleeper. Kenworth offers two sleeper lengths, a 42-inch and a 60-inch. The Aeromax offers a 34, a 42, and a 60-inch sleeper. More choice for our customers. Kenworth sleeper is aluminum sheets riveted over a framework. A good method. It's the way the able-bodied Ford sleepers used to be built. A year ago, we went to a more advanced design, a monocoque construction that eliminates that internal framework, uses a smooth coach joint design, and that eliminates exposed rivets. A word about materials used in the construction of these vehicles. This is a spray-up type fiberglass hood. Ford uses fiberglass made from a pressure-type resin-treated molding process. Not only do you wind up with a durable hood, but you get what's known as a Class A surface finish, the same high-quality finish Ford expects in its cars and light trucks. Look at it when you come down here later. And look at what Ford has done on the back of this fender. A large turn signal indicator light, so all overtaking traffic will get a clear idea of what this truck driver's intentions are. We think that's a best-in-class feature. Bumper on the Kenworth, urethane plastic with a metal backing supported by bracing rods. On the Aeromax 120, steel. Heavier, more functional, no bracing rods to get in the way of a mechanic during servicing. Or if weight's a consideration, you can go with aluminum, as on that particular model. The cab on the Kenworth is aluminum huck-bolted, not riveted. And that's a good method by comparison, since huck bolts have 6 times the clamping force of rivets and are less likely to shear off. But you know what you get with huck bolts. Little impressions around every one of them as they're tightened down to hold in place. You're not going to wind up with the smooth fit and finish of the Aeromax 120. When you get the opportunity to climb in and out of these vehicles, and you will in just a couple of minutes, here are some things to look for. This cab is 51 inches off the ground. The Aeromax, 47 inches off the ground. The Aeromax 120 takes assist handles and does just what you ought to do with an assist handle. put it in a good position to help you get in and out of the cab, particularly the handle on the inside of the door. Look at that when you get your chance. Also compare door openings. The Aeromax, simply wider. Inside this Kenworth, you've got a flat instrument panel, and that was not a favorite among the drivers we did research with. The Aeromax has a wraparound instrument panel with Ford's popular 3 o'clock OK gauges. Front axle, 12,000 pounds on the Kenworth, 12,000 pounds on the Aeromax in aluminum or steel, and a 14,600 pound front axle rating RPO. This Kenworth does have the longest front taper leaf springs of any of the four you see here today, 64 inches. Should contribute to a good ride, and it does, but some of the drivers in our focus group still cited the Kenworth's ride as being choppy. The Aeromax has 58-inch front springs of a parabolic taper leaf design, which offers some improvements over regular taper leaf. Warranties comparable between the two, except that Ford does have 5 years unlimited mileage coverage for the cab and frame, as opposed to 5 years, 500,000 miles with Kenworth, and Ford has some ESC coverage that Kenworth lacks. Freightliner FLD120. Freightliner has what it calls soft rate taper leaf springs, 54.5 inches. Drivers rated the ride in the Freightliner as very good. They also rated the ride on the Aeromax 120 as very good, with 58-inch parabolic front taper leaf springs. Ford offers rear suspension from 34 to 46,000 pounds. Freightliner from 36 to 40,000 pounds. And Freightliner does not offer the popular Hendrickson Air suspension as Ford does. When it's your turn, do the chin test on these vehicles. It's kind of unfair for a long-nosed conventional box like this. Forward visibility, hampered. The others have gone a different direction, with the obvious advantage in forward visibility to the Aeromax 120. Freightliner put a larger windshield on this one than they had in the FLC model, but it's still a two-piece windshield, and drivers said the center post and the height of this windshield were vision problems. And they said perhaps the worst feature of this cab is its small side window. By contrast, the Aeromax has larger side windows, that right side blind spot noticeably less. In terms of overall visibility, we think the Aeromax 120 is outstanding, and the drivers in our focus groups agreed. Freightliner, like the Kenworth, has an aluminum cab riveted and huck-bolted, so you've got that same fit and finish dimple situation that you don't have on the smooth Aeromax 120. Drivers in our focus group complained some about loose fits in the cab on the Freightliner, some door opening and closing problems, and a tendency of the inner door panel to crack over a period of time. The Freightliner we bought for the focus groups, as a matter of fact, developed some rattles in a rather short period of time, and the drivers picked up on that right away. And Freightliner does recommend its heavy-duty cab option with a steel floor section for all but on-highway only operation. I don't need to tell you, the cab on the Aeromax 120 doesn't need beefing up for various vocational applications, and the drivers commented favorably on the seating package here too. Also, in this LTLA model, Hydra mount suspension is standard for the cab, and that helps to smooth out the road and take some of those road noises away. Standard mount on the Freightliner, solid rubber, although they do have a air hydraulic cab suspension system as an option. Inside's a fairly roomy cab with a wraparound instrument panel. It lacks Ford's 3 o'clock OK gauges, and the drivers told us that the tachometer and speedometer are too low and too close together, and sometimes vision of those gauges can be obscured by the steering wheel hub or column. Look at that when you get a chance to crawl in here. Drivers rated the pedals on the Aeromax, the brake and accelerator, as comfortable. On the Freightliner, they said they might be a little too vertical to be comfortable. Freightliner offers 2 integral sleepers, which they now call sleeper cabs, and 2 separate sleeper boxes in 40 and 60 inches. The separate sleeper boxes are aluminum riveted over a framework, as opposed to the smooth coach joint design in the Aeromax 120. Our research groups also picked up on the color-coded wiring as a servicing feature. They preferred that in the Aeromax 120 to the Freightliner's numbered wiring system. Overall, this is a good truck. To our third competitor, the International 9400. This was introduced last year as a 1990 model. It's a streamlined version of the 9300 with 124-inch BBC. The 9400 is made in Canada. It has an aluminum riveted cab, first seen in the old TranStar models, and a Benz aluminum riveted sleeper. We think the L-Series cab and advanced able-body sleeper compare very well. 9400 offers a 42-inch flat top or raised roof, or a 60-inch flat top sleeper. With the Aeromax 120, you've got a 34-inch and a 42 and 60-inch in either a flat top, penthouse, or bullet high top. Also, Ford offers a larger variety of interior trim for the sleeper than the International does, and we think that's particularly important to owner-operators. Axles and suspension, pretty similar between these two, although the 9400 does not offer the 14,600-pound rating for Canada. Both have 58-inch front leaf springs. The cab on the International, solid rubber mounts. The cab on the Aeromax 120, Hydra mount suspension, again, to dampen out some of the road shocks and noise, a value-added feature we think drivers will appreciate. Once you're inside the 9400, pretty good visibility from a large two-piece flat windshield, but once again, we're talking a center post and large A-pillars, not arranged like they are in the Aeromax 120. A little larger side window here, too, on the Aeromax. And the International still clings to that high mount windshield wiper, which is not all that good in a snow belt, where it just keeps pushing the snow up to the top and it drops back down and it gets pushed back up again and so on. Once again, a flat instrument panel, and our drivers noted some of the switches here are positioned too low for real efficiency. Also, our drivers did not like the metal pedals on the International, preferring a rubber pad for safety, especially when shoes and boots are wet. And finally, a question: why would you spend all the time and money and research to develop an aero truck and not finish it with aero headlights? Only one manufacturer does that in front of you today. Now it's your turn. Come on down here. Take a look at these trucks close up. Get your hands on them and compare. Because when you do, I think you'll have to agree with me that this Aeromax 120 is going to be a strong competitor in a very strong market.
If you'd like to take a closer look too, call 1-800-FORD-FIRST for your free Aeromax 120 demonstration. A Ford heavy truck dealer will arrange for the time and place most convenient for you. That's 1-800-367-3178 to see firsthand how the Aeromax 120 matches up to the competition and wins.